All right. Let's move it into another day of the show. Gridiron Grubb podcast show coming at you live today. It is a Wednesday. We're going to be building up into what we have going on today. So don't forget first, follow over at Gridiron Grubb on Twitter. Subscribe here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can get it, get on and get it done. It is that time. Don't forget, 5-star reviews over on Apple Podcasts. Today, we're going to start off with our Wednesday's Winds of Change, and we've got some changes to talk about. But first, before we get into that, there was some news that broke before we got on air here today, and that is, first, Justin Fields named the starter of the Bears moving forward. Nagy finally made his decision, and it's done. Fields will be the starter. He'll be moving forward. That's going to be the big deal now. So, here we are. We've got Fields. He's going to be the Bears starter. So that's part of our Winds of Change today that just happened as we came on air. And the Patriots make a big move. They trade. The morning said they released Stephon Gilmore. However, they end up trading him to the Panthers for a 6th-round pick is the first thing I saw. I don't know if more came along with it. Not DJ Moore, but I don't know if more value came of that trade, except for I did see a 6th-round pick. So you've got Stephon Gilmore heading to the Panthers, heading home to Carolina where he's from, and Justin Fields named the starter. Those are our starts of the big news of the Winds of Change today. But moving into who I want to talk about is Big Ben Roethlisberger. Well, is it time for the change? Is it time for them to move on? It's looking like it. I don't know how they're going to handle the rest of the season. Big Ben does not look in a good football shape. His mind, his mentality, everything that's going on just does not look good. And so let's take a look at it. Now, his stats, they're not horrible, but they're not great in some of these areas. So his completions, he's completed 109 of 170 passes. Think of it, they've thrown 170 passes in 4 games. That's really part of what's not getting it done here. Okay, so you've got that. You've got his pass yards. He's over 1,000 yards in 4 games. Okay, but not great again. Averaging about probably 250 a game. Not going to cut it. A little over 250 a game. That's where he's at. His completion percentage, again, not horrible, not off the charts, not horrible. However, looking at the pass TDs and the interceptions, he's got 4 pass TDs and 4 interceptions, and that's the problem after 170 passes thrown. To only have 4 touchdowns is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's not getting it done. He's been sacked 10 times, and he's got sacked yards a loss at only 47 yards, but that's still pretty big in 10. They're averaging almost 5 yards a sack in losses. For the offensive line that they've got going there, that's not horrible. It's not the worst thing that could happen to him, but it's not the best thing that could happen to him. But looking at this and breaking this down even more, if you look over here to the right, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on the podcast, he's got 200. They've had 236 total plays, right, in 4 games. They only have 66 rushing attempts. So I don't care if you say, oh, well, they can't rush. The offensive line's been really bad. Well, they're not. They have passed the ball 72% of the time. Now, I know they've been down in games and they've been behind, and so that's part of the structure for them only throwing the ball or only running the ball 66 times and passing 72% of the time, which is 170 of those plays. That's just not going to get it done, though, out of 236 plays. This is what I talk about in several teams, even the winning teams, even the teams that look good, like the Bucs and these other teams, they're not getting it done as far as balancing an offense. They're just not. And this is really, 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 really weighing on how the Steelers get things done. They're not getting it done because Roethlisberger, there's too much put on his shoulder. Here's this guy. He's been beat up. He's almost 40. His body has taken a beating for many seasons. Many seasons. Many seasons. He's taken a beating. And just look what's happened. We're watching him kind of deteriorate in front of our eyes, and it's a bad thing to watch. They've got to do better for him. So not only is the offensive line a problem, but it's the choice of not trying to run the football. They just give up on it in a game. They don't keep doing it. It's the worst thing that they could do as far as their offense and the imagination that comes along with it. They're not getting it done. Look, these teams that want to line up and either have a fullback or have these things, and there's no creativity behind the run game, they're not getting it done. Look at the teams that are getting it done in the run game. They're getting it done with motions and play actions. Now, unless you're the Titans and you have Derrick Henry, they do that a lot. They line up and they just kind of power the ball with Henry, but he wears the defense down, so he gets going. But Najee Harris isn't even getting an opportunity to do that in Pittsburgh. It's just not happening. All they do is run these mediocre runs up the middle. There's no creativity behind it, and they're very rarely doing a run. I mean, think about that. 236 plays, 170 passes. That's not going to get it done. And you can't tell me that they're behind so far at the beginning of a football game that they can't establish the run. It's not happening maybe? Okay, so it might not be happening. Right? The run's just not working, but it can't be not working ever. They have to do it. And if they would pound the rock and maybe even split up backs, right? You put in Snell, you put in, one of the backup guys to go at it and get it done, and bring. So this is what I was talking about last week with the Dallas Cowboys. Before they actually had this game where they ran the football, mixed it up, had a different guy come in. They had Pollard and Zeke mix these things up, and they did really good. Okay, look at how their offense was so much better than it's been in the past probably 3 weeks. This was probably one of their best offensive games all around. Now, did Dak throw for 450 yards? No, but that's the point. If you mix it up and you got a running back like Zeke and you got an offensive line like the Cowboys have that can run block, then you go do it. Now, I understand the Steelers have been struggling in the run block areas. Okay, they've been struggling, but they're not even. If you're not even trying it and you're not going with it, I don't understand where they're going with their offensive philosophy, right? So maybe this is that season that we have some more winds of change for them, right? Maybe, does this guy blow in? Does he blow into the starting lineup? Are they going to put Haskins in? What happens if the season goes to, they got 2 or 3 wins down the road here and playoffs are not on the horizon and we get to week 11, 12, 13 and the Steelers look like they're out of the playoff picture a little bit. What do if Big Ben keeps just putting up stinkers and not winning the game? Look, again, is he completing passes? Is he getting things done? Yes. As we go back and look at this, is he getting things done? Yes. Right? He's got 1,000 yards passing, so it's not like he's been horrible back there. The problem is that's just what they rely on. And maybe if we watch him get beat up for the next 8, 9, 10 weeks, is that where it's going to be? Is that where it's going to go? Is that where this is going to roll? I certainly hope not, but it looks like that might be where we're going because the Steelers are going to have to try. They're going to have to do something at a certain point this season if this offense and this philosophy keeps going. So do they have to go to Haskins? They might. You might want to see what he has, 3-4 games down with left in the season, week 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, does Haskins get in there and play? That might be the chance. You got to see what the kid's got, right? So did he have a spectacular time in Washington? No, but more of his off-the-field things is what hindered him. He was a young quarterback learning. He had some decent games in Washington. It was just what was happening off the field that really affected how he was acting in a locker room, how he was acting to coaches, and things like that. From what we hear, he's straightened himself up as far as that off the field. We haven't heard any big news about him since then. So, does he fit with the Steelers? Is he the guy they go to when it's time to go to a new quarterback? Well, they've got to try him, because if they're going to have a bad season this year and they're going to get a high draft pick next season, and they can spend that on something else, if Haskins is the guy they want to roll with, then they've got to find that out. And I hate that it has to be Big Ben that he's going down this path. And I hope that his season gets better. Look, as a fan of the NFL and a fan of football, I want to see Ben Roethlisberger finish his career on a high note. Okay? But it happens. It happened to Eli Manning, right? He got hurt. Jones came in, and then Eli wasn't really getting it done, and they just went to Jones. Well, Jones was the next suitor that was supposed to take over. Is Haskins that guy? We don't know, but the Steelers don't know either, so they've got to find out. And the only way they do that is to put him in there. And I think if their season goes down the drain, they know what they have in Mason Rudolph. They don't know what they have in Dwayne Haskins. What if he comes in week 11, 12, and they run a 2 or 3 game winning streak? You just got to find out what the guy has, and they've got to do that. They've got to try to do that. Now, moving into our next winds of change, how about these AZ Cardinals, right? Our Arizona Cardinals, 4-0. And they've been out proving themselves. They've been out there doing it. They've got the proof that they are doing it. How do we know that? Because look at them. It's absolutely incredible that they have come through and the schedule that they've had, and they're the last undefeated team, which is weird 4 weeks into the season. Usually we have some undefeated teams going 6, 7, 8 weeks down the road. We got one, which is shocking because you would think some of these other teams, like even Buffalo with their schedule, you would have thought they would be undefeated, except they kind of put up a stinker bomb week 1, right? And but that's okay for them. Hell, if you're putting up your stinker in the first week and then you got over it like they've done, look at that. But look at these AZ Cardinals, right? 4-0, and let's look at these numbers. Okay, so if you're watching, you can see it on the screen. If you're listening, we've got their offense has put up 140 points. 140 points. They're averaging, in 4 games, they're averaging 35 points a game. That is incredible. So the offense is starting to roll there. They're starting to work. They've got 1,216 passing yards, 9 TDs from Kyler Murray. The dude's throwing at a 76% completion rate over 4 games. Incredible. He's thrown 4 interceptions. They haven't fumbled as a team. They have no fumbles lost. They've had some fumbles, but they haven't lost any. 4 turnovers is it. 546 rushing yards. Obviously, that's not the major part of their offense. However, this season, look at that. 9 passing touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns. That's a pretty good split for them. They were a little imbalanced last year and couldn't get it done. And they had 2 running backs. Now they're actually getting it done. James Conner has come in, and I thought this a few weeks ago, he might get more and more carries. Between him and Edmonds, they're really doing a really good job. And this offense has looked great. It looks spectacular. Everybody is getting amazed by what they see. Now, where this team is winning games is their defense. This defense, now, they've given up a little bit of yards, and they're giving up, rushing yards is their main mode of yardage given up compared to their passing yards. However, if you look at this, they've only given up 85 points. So this is kind of one of those scenarios where when they do get a drive mounted against them, they don't break, right? This is becoming one of those bend, don't break defenses. They're getting lots of sacks. Obviously, Jones had 5 sacks in the first game alone, but they're getting sacks. That defensive line, when it's rolling, they're getting to the quarterback. So this wind of change, our Arizona Cardinals, are looking good. They're averaging giving up 21 points a game and averaging scoring 35 points a game. That's incredible. The defense has only given up 886 yards passing. In a combined 4 weeks, if you look at that, that's probably some of the bottom-dwelling quarterbacks have thrown for that in their yardages. So they're pretty close to holding quarterbacks down to league minimums. They've given up 7 pass TDs. Not that bad. Again, they've scored 9, so, the past TDs, that's what's going to happen in the NFL. But look at this completion percentage against their defense, only 64.3%. Doing really good at holding quarterbacks from hitting big completions. And if you look at this last week when they played the Rams, that is really, really, really incredible to hold that team down the way they did. The Rams have been on fire. They've been hitting big plays. Stafford's been having great numbers, and they held it all down. They held it in check. They only gave up 20 points. They held the Rams in check. It was a really, really good defensive game for them, defensive scheme of how to stop the Rams, and it looked good. Now, if you look at this, the turnovers that the defense has forced, they forced 3 interceptions and 4 fumbles. So they got 7 turnovers compared to their 4 on their offense. So they've only turned the ball over 4 times. Defense has forced 7, so they're a +3 in the turnover margin. That's going to get it done during the season. That's a great average to have if you're staying at +3, +4. You'd like that to raise as the season goes on. But after 4 games, if you're averaging, they're almost averaging +1 a game, that's really good. Because in the NFL, the margin of victory is so slim, right? 3 or 4 points is our average margin of victory. Well, that's 1 turnover. If you're +1, you have the possibility of giving yourself a win each and every week. So looking at this now, they've given up 543 rush yards, which is how much they have. Pretty much is on offense, they have 546, but the defense has given up 543. However, again, this bend don't break defense, they've only given up 2 rushing touchdowns, which combined with the 7 they gave up passing, they haven't even given up 10 touchdowns in 4 games. That's really good average there, as they're only averaging just over 2 touchdowns given up a game. That is incredible. That's why this team is winning so definitively, because, well, again, the offense is going to get it done. They struggled a few games last year. Then they had some situations where the run didn't really help them out, and they couldn't be balanced last year as much with the run, even though they had it. They were balancing the play calling, but the run wasn't getting it done. And so this year, though, they're balancing it. It's getting it done all around, and you got to just wonder, can they keep getting it done? So as we take a look at their schedule here, they've got San Fran. So that's what I say, as this offense goes up against these defenses that they got coming up, are they going to be able to mash it all together still? They've got San Fran. Then, at home, so that's good. Then they're at the Browns. That's going to be a tough one against that defense. We're going to find out with that fast, speedy defensive linebacker core that the Browns have put together, where Kyler Murray, I really think that is a find out game, a what you got game. That's what we're going to find out when they go to Cleveland, because that defensive line, they are quick. They got quick linebackers. They run good coverage. They got a good secondary. We'll see where that goes. Then they play the Texans. All right. We don't even care. We know that's going to be, especially in Arizona, that's going to be a stinker. The Bills just beat them 40-0. That's going to get worse as the season goes on, because there's going to be divide in the locker room, except for maybe when Tyrod Taylor comes back, they do better, and he could possibly be back that week. So who knows? Green Bay, here we go. Defense, they've got a defensive line, got some linebackers. We'll see where Green Bay's defense goes. But then back at San Francisco, then the Panthers, then the Seahawks. Out of their next, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. That's right before their bye. Their bye week is week 12. So the next 7 games, they play 6 really good defenses. 6 really good defenses. So we're going to find out where this offense goes and if they can mesh together. And then you also play some really good offenses in Aaron Rodgers. Sam Darnold's been balling out. You're going to have to stop Russell Wilson because they're playing at the Seahawks. Cleveland will find out how your run defense does. If Baker Mayfield looks like he looked last week, they don't have to worry about that game too much as far as an offense coming at them. So looking at this, can they get it done? Absolutely. This schedule is going to be tough, though, for them over the next, 7-8 weeks until they run into their bye. They're going to have to really hold it together. And like I say, you've got 1, 2, 3 division games in that. And then you play the Packers and the Panthers, who have both been doing really good this season. but they play the Panthers at home and the Packers at home. So that could be we'll find out. But that is a tough road the next 7 weeks for these guys. And we'll see how really good they are. Again, I think you're going to have a find me out game in a couple weeks when you have to go to Cleveland. And it's a 2:05 start, so okay, they're not going to be in the freezing cold in Cleveland, but we're going to find out what they got when that defense can run them down. Inside the 10, we've got Rams, Seahawks, Rams going to the Seahawks. Thursday night, division game, short week. This is going to be a good one. However, it's going to be interesting with the Rams getting a beat down by the Cardinals on Sunday, having to come out with a short week and participate against another division rival in Seattle, which is going to be loud, 12th man, going to be crazy, and you know it. So looking at these numbers, we've got Matthew Stafford, right? We're taking our quarterback comparison here. Matthew Stafford, 92 of 135. The dude's got 68% completion percentage. He's thrown for 1,222 yards. Pretty darn good. 11 TDs, 2 interceptions. He had the one early against the game, last game against the Cardinals. That one was bad. His QBR 73.0. Okay, he's moving up the chart there. He doesn't have any rushing TDs. We don't expect Matthew Stafford to be out there running the football and doing those things. However, with his numbers, they look good. Then we move over to what Russell Wilson's got going on. What's Russ got cooking? Well, Russ, he's been cooking a little bit, but it's been a rough season for their offense. Have they won the games? They've won some games, yes. Have they had some good moments? Yes. But it hasn't been this amazing, put together, well thought out offensive effort yet. They just haven't come together yet. Now, if you look at Russ, though, he does such an amazing job. He's got 9 touchdowns and no interceptions yet this season. Okay? His QBR, though, that's a little worrisome at 61.1. He's got to move that up the charts. It's just not looking great for him. He does have 1 rushing TD. He didn't receive it, but he got it this last week against the 49ers. He's got to do better. He really has to do better. Unfortunately for him, with this team, it's all stuck on him. Now, moving into the game, they had Chris Carson. He had missed practice, did not practice on Tuesday. As of today, I haven't heard any extra news. They said it was a neck injury. However, it was also a vet day of rest they were giving him. So we'll see where that plays out as we move into the game tomorrow, how much that hinders him. Does he play? Does he not? Well, then it'll fall on Alex Collins. Even more if it does, maybe a DJ Dallas steps in and gets some more work. So, moving into that, looking at the fantasy outlook of this game, Matthew Stafford, I think he gets his points back this week, and I think Darrell Henderson was he's been limited in his practice with his injury that he had sustained a few weeks back, but he played, and we expect him to play again this week. Sony Michel, quiet. I don't know. I don't think Sony Michel. It's funny, the Patriots traded him, and everybody thought he was going to come in and be this go-to guy there within a few weeks. It hasn't looked that great for him. Henderson looks really good as being the backup. So then we move into Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, and we know what we're going to get there. These guys are going to put up their points week in and week out. Obviously, Kupp has had some just amazing games. I think this week where he lines up on that defense, so they line him up everywhere, I think he may even have a bigger week this week, obviously, than last week. He may at least double that and get around the 20-point range, 22-point range with this defense. Robert Woods, you've got him. He hasn't had a blow-up game. He finally got to about 14 points in a PPR this last week. I think he does good. Van Jefferson, it's up in the air, right? He had a good week this week. The week before, not so much. It was more of Deshaun Jackson. They did throw some passes, some deep balls to Deshaun Jackson this week. They just didn't connect on a lot of them as they have in the past. And Van Jefferson, the same thing. He's kind of the deep ball threat there. So it's just, give and take between him and Deshaun Jackson, who's going to get it each week. This last week, it happened to be Van Jefferson. He picked up a touchdown and some points in the game. However, Cooper Kupp, I think, has another big game, as that's how their offense is set up, and I think they got sloppy last week, and they got real cocky about how they had been throwing these balls over the top, where they roll Stafford out to his right, and he chucks it deep, as they have a backside deep post that's run behind the secondary. They've been hitting that quite a bit over the season. It didn't work out this last week as the Cardinals shut that down. So moving into Tyler Higbee has been limited this week so far, but it looks like he's probably going to be good to go and play. Again, here's a guy, he sneaks in some touchdowns. He gets some possession receptions. They use him more as a possession tight end, possession receiver now that they've got Cooper Kupp making bigger plays. However, Cooper Kupp went back into his steady role last week of more of the possession receiver. So Higbee, most likely a serviceable tight end tomorrow night. Russell Wilson, as we move into the Seattle side of this fantasy outlook, going to get his points. Chris Carson, like I said, we're going to find out if he plays. If not, Alex Collins is going to get probably a bell cow work with some mixed in with some DJ Dallas coming out. The youngster, more special teams guy right now, but he will have some work if Carson doesn't go. And you got Rashad Penny on the Lamb on the IR. So Alex Collins, if Carson doesn't go, look for him to have a pretty decent game. I don't think it'll be spectacular. Again, the Seahawks have had struggled on their run offense in the first place. And going up against this defense, I don't know if it happens. They did give up runs against the Cardinals. However, their whole team was just one of those games when the Rams came out and it stunk early. They just kind of start to, that's that domino effect. So they didn't get it done. So maybe Alex Collins, maybe Chris Carson. We'll see. If Chris Carson doesn't go, look for Alex Collins to be the bell cow. And like I say, DJ Dallas to come in and get some work. DK Metcalf has been the guy over the last few weeks that's who Russell Wilson has gone back to looking for. The first couple weeks, it was Tyler Lockett. These last few weeks, it's been a DK Metcalf kind of look. And obviously, Freddie Swain getting some looks deep down the field or, those mid-range passes anywhere from 15 to 25 yards on the sideline. Swain seems to be with those. Eskridge, the rookie, has been on the mend. He may get back up in it this week. We'll see. It's a short week. He's been in concussion protocol. He's been limited practice, but hasn't been fully cleared and fully ready to go. Will Dissly, I don't want any part of that tight end. He may get a shocker touchdown or one of these big plays or something, but not person I'm touching as far as fantasy. He's not going to, if you do daily and you're taking a wild guess on somebody who gets some lucky points, maybe that's the guy you go with. So looking at this final score, I actually think since the Rams took a beating last week, it's a short week. I don't think they come back, and they've got to go up to Seattle and play this 12th man in Seattle, and it's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. It's a division game. I think the Seahawks actually take it. 31-27 is my score prediction. As I say, I think Russell gets cooking a little more this week. It's going to be a tough challenge. I know that's a high score as the over-under is 54.5. I've got them obviously beating that by 3.5 points, as I have 58 points on the scoreboard. But I think that's, this is one of those games that I think comes down to that. And even if the score is not as high and it ends up being an under, I would still say something like 24-21, 27-21 Seahawks. I just think it's going to get done as a 12th man. Looking at the spread right now, Rams are minus 2.5, so they're the favorites by a 2.5 margin. Again, I'm taking the Seahawks, so I'm giving you the Rams with the 2.5. Money line, Rams right now a minus 135, Seahawks a plus 115. Obviously where I'm at, I'm taking the money line on the Seahawks with the plus 115. And that's what I'm looking at as excitement here. I think these guys get it done. The Seahawks win the game. It's going to be fun. It's going to be loud and crazy up in the 12th man, up in Seattle. Look for some earthquakes. Probably not this week. since it's not a playoff game, but it's going to be loud in a division game against the Rams. They're going to want it. I think Carroll, Wilson, they get it done, and look for that to happen. So, I appreciate you being with me today. It's been great. Don't forget, follow at Gridiron Grubb on Twitter. We've got content coming out there. It's great. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. You get Inside the 10. You can have the full podcast. Subscribe on YouTube to it all. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just to listen to the podcast itself, the full episodes. Don't forget to leave 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. It would be greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you guys. Peace out. We'll see you tomorrow and then the next day.